Good Tuesday morning, everybody, and we are here. I'm Jim Williams along with Sean Miller, and we're ready to rock and roll, have some fun today, and talk some sports. Sean, some of the headlines in sports today has to do with Artie Moreno, who owns the Angels, who wanted seemingly to sell the Angels and now doesn't. So Artie's pulled the team off the market and said, we still have some things to accomplish, and so that's his goal. So Artie's back in the business of owning baseball teams, and it turns out that the Angels were for sale for a while, but not so much now.
Yeah, I always find that interesting. Like, they're getting $2.5 billion offers for it. He bought it for basically nothing. So, 300 million, 150 million or something.
I was going to say, you couldn't get the shortstop on the team for the money that he paid for the franchise.
Yeah, I don't really understand it, but, I guess he's got some ideas. I mean, they're not going to be able to sign, you'd think, Ohtani, but who knows? And
Ohtani's a freak. I mean, that guy, think about this. You got Ohtani, Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon. You're now at those three players. Ohtani is free agent in next year. He's got $1 billion wrapped up in three guys if he goes the Ohtani route, and they still can't make the playoffs. I mean, it's baffling to me.
Yeah. Look, I mean.
And in fairness to him, it's not like Artie Moreno hadn't spent money. He spent a ton of money. It just hasn't gone it.
Manchester in soccer right now. I mean, Chelsea sold because of they forced Abramovich to do it. But you see the other people now saying it's our time, and I just you got to time these things correctly, because if baseball goes in the tank in the next couple years. Maybe they're talking expansion when they should maybe be talking contraction. You just, I don't know. You lose $1 billion. I mean, I guess you still go away with $1.5 billion. But I always think, if that's your first, if your first thought is to, if you thought about it that long and decided to sell and it was on the market for that long, and then you're that second thoughts is maybe like
hitting his price.
Maybe maybe it's just cold feet, but it's just like, at that point, just sell it. I don't know what you're gonna do here. I mean, now all of a sudden, now if you go back and now you're gonna spend now if you don't, you're almost forced to spend money. I mean, baseball you are anyway, but you're almost forced to spend money on all these players because you've been doing it for so long, and the new owners were going to come in, and whenever the new owners come in, like Chelsea, they buy everybody under the sun and all this stuff. So now you're almost forced to spend like crazy money. I mean, Ohtani's going to be $500 million himself, and you can't just spend on Ohtani because you have to build a team around them. So now you're spending $1 billion here in the next, And I know it's not really his money, but at the same time, you could be sitting at home with $2.5 billion in the bank and just sitting on the beach or something like that. These people that are like this, they don't really they can't do that. Like if someone offered me $2.5 billion for my chickens outside, all of a sudden, I wouldn't go work tomorrow. I see ya. I think no, I would be gone. But I just the people I guess that get like that aren't like that. So
they're not wired that way. Amedeus, how you doing this morning, my friend?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Fine. We were talking about ownership, and here's a quirky one, guys. This one kind of floated out, and that was Jeff Bezos wants to buy the Washington Commanders from Dan Snyder. Okay. Dan Snyder doesn't want to sell it to him, even though he and his team are the highest bidders, because Bezos owns the Washington Post, and Snyder has felt slighted ever since he bought the team by said Washington Post. All right. So Bezos hints that he could sell the Washington Post if Snyder allowed him to buy the Commanders. Now, here's the crazy part. If he sells the Commanders to Bezos, what's he going to write in the Washington Post about Snyder? Because Snyder's not going to own the team anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, to be honest. Like, it's already like you've already done the slighting. Like at that point,
Yes.
now,
That's done.
Not for nothing. Like, he shouldn't be able to own the newspaper that covers the team anyway, because I mean that it's all. I mean, it's all dodgy. Like that's. I don't know. I'm a media person, so when you have the media in the hands of like ever smaller group of people, I start to have problems with that stuff,
Well, it's
not really a separation of
church and state. Yes, but those lines have been blurred for a long time, and
yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, what we're seeing now, and you guys know as well as I do, is you're seeing teams take over their own coverage, hiring a lot of the writers who used to write, about them for newspapers. They're now writing for their websites. So, what used to be the separation between the two, now, if you want to find out the most accurate information, you go to a team's website because they've got their own staff.
Yep.
Which, it's good for some writers that we know, but, and taking everything in-house makes sense because you control the narrative, right? Although I will say, kudos to the public, the group at Dallas where Dak Prescott was upset and blamed some of his teammates. And so the Dallas Cowboys Twitter feed mentioned that, perhaps Dallas could have won the game had Dak not thrown 2 interceptions. So you're looking at that and I'm like, wait a minute, where's this? It's the Dallas Cowboys, Twitter feed. So I don't know what's going on in Jerry's world, but that's a pretty interesting, setup, to be sure.
Yeah,
have your own social media director criticize you.
Yeah.
Maybe you lost some money on the game. Who knows?
Yep.
Or she, I don't know. But yeah, it's getting wild. Have you, the two of you guys, we're talking about buying and selling franchises. Have you seen any a time, I should say, when so many different franchises, both across the pond and in major soccer and others, and over here with major baseball, basketball, football franchises are up for sale?
No, I mean, I think it's a mixture of the crazy money and then maybe all these billionaires know something about the economy that's coming down the road here. Not to go all conspiracy theory, but there's a lot of dodgy. The economy is not great. Middle of a recession, blah blah blah, all this stuff. So, when all the rich people start heading to the shelters, maybe something's on the horizon here. So
that's something's here that we
Look,
wicked this way. We're all headed to
everyone else here has to stay, and exactly. So
I was about to say we're all headed to buy homes in Amedeus' neighborhood so that we can be safe from all the crazy here in the States.
Yeah, you're not going to be any safer up here.
Oh, okay, well, thanks. I greatly appreciate that. Andy Zimbalist, who is a sports economist professor at Smith College, and widely agreed to be the one of the sports economists that everybody goes to. As a matter of fact, Andy set the price on when Donald Sterling had to sell the Clippers. It was Andy who the NBA got to set the price for the auction, which Baltimore. But he bid $2 billion on something and he valued it 1.6 or 1.5. Anyway, and I asked Andy once, what drives somebody to want to own a franchise? He says only two things. One is ego, and the second is they're a fan. Because those are the only two reasons to own a sports franchise. Because it will, most of them will gain in value, but not all of them. And so if you're not, if your ego has to own something, then it's owning a franchise. If, on the other hand, you're a fan, that's another reason. So one of those two reasons is what the theory of the case that Andy puts out there. And I can't disagree with that. I mean, and you've got, Sean, one of the most storied franchises in all of sports in Manchester United. And the suitors for them, want that name, regardless of, how much it costed somebody.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and you got, you also have Liverpool apparently up for sale, and maybe not, maybe, I'm dealing with this with Manchester United, 50 direct messages a day. Thanks, Patron, for that tweet you sent out to tell everybody to message me, by the way. They're doing their due diligence, and they're the gold standard for these teams. I mean, they're the biggest.
Look, I would say they're
big machine. They're the biggest team in England. They're the biggest name for years. They're everybody's nostalgic. Blah blah blah. The first English team to win the Champions League. The Busby Babes and the Crash and the everything that goes around it. So they'll sell, but I think maybe once Manchester United sells, it'll be a thing for all these other teams. Maybe Artie Moreno says, "Man, Manchester United just sold for $6 billion. Maybe I should be asking $3.5 billion for the Angels, or all this stuff." I mean, I just don't think anybody's going to buy anything until this team is sold, because they're going to be the gold standard for all the rest of these deals. Now, if Chelsea got $3.5 billion for that dump of a stadium and that dumpster fire of a team right now, then Manchester United, which is the stadium is twice as big, the global marketing thing is 20 times as big as anybody else in the league. They're going to be, if they go for $5.5 billion or whatever they go for, now all of a sudden you can say, all right, well, this is how much I should pay for Liverpool. This is how much I should pay for. So, I think once they sell, you might see some other teams. I mean, when you see the number that this team is going to sell for, if I'm some owner and I'm just like, man, I'm sick and tired of hearing we don't win anything ever. None of these teams, it's really hard to win these leagues. Mm-hmm. You think about like the NBA, a team like Sacramento owned by they owned by owners with a lot of money. I mean, they're good this year, but they've been terrible for 20 years. It's hard to win these leagues and win trophies. So, if you're doing this stuff and you're getting people in your ear all the time about this and we don't win anything, and you just see somebody sell for $6 billion, say, man, I could get $3 billion for my team and just get out and go live on a beach somewhere, I would start to think about it.
If Amedeus, we know what franchise that if Sean had his right, he would own. Do you have a franchise out there, a dream thing that sometime you sit back and say, "Wow, it'd be kind of fun if I just owned this team"?
I mean, that's a tough question. I don't really know what team. Maybe the Cardinals, because they've been making so many bad decisions for years. They need.
I'm sorry, which Cardinals are we talking about?
The Arizona Cardinals.
Okay, the Arizona Cardinals, not to be confused.
Yeah, just because I've watched them make so many bad decisions year after year after year. It's like It's almost like watching the MLS try to put a schedule together. At some point, you just want to rip your hair out and say, let me pick the player. Let me pick the coach. Because at this point, bringing in a coach for 2 years and then firing him and starting all over by drafting a new quarterback, it's not working.
I think didn't Cliff Kingsbury decide that he's going to Thailand for a year?
Yeah, he bought a one-way ticket to Thailand, and he should have bought one for Kyler Murray while he was at it. But, and then now you got Steve Keim joining Cliff in Thailand on that one-way ticket, which is finally a good thing for the Cardinals, Steve Keim. But, I don't know, maybe AC Milan too, because, that's my soccer team. And at least if I owned AC Milan, they play in a league that I deem not as competitive. So I think if I owned AC Milan, I could put together a good enough team to win that title.
If I can simply just offer something to you here, I think it would be more fun to spend time in Milan than it would in Glendale, Arizona. I've been in both, and the food is much better in Milan. It's a much nicer city.
Well, fashion capital of the world, of Italy anyway, and maybe the world. But
one of them for sure. And Glendale, it's great if you like Taco Bell and all that good stuff. And golf. But otherwise, not so much. It's just outside Phoenix. And please send all of your letters on if you are a member of the Chamber of Commerce of Phoenix or Glendale to jimwilliamsmedia@gmail.com, because that stadium's out in the middle of nowhere, but that's where the Super Bowl's going to be played. So anyway, all right, AC Milan for you, and we know Sean would have his Manchester United team all set to go. So there you go. It's not a bad thing.
But you bring up a great point with location, because it's the same for these players. Like I think a great example is the Coyotes in the NHL.
Jesus,
these guys play in the Sun Devils 5,000, the arena that holds 5,000 people. Yeah. So this is what I mean, though. Like the sport hasn't been popular out there for years now. They've been trying to fill the stadium. They've actually had to now move again and reduce the fans into the game. Right. And at some point, the Coyotes have been one of the worst teams in the league for a while now, but no amount of draft picks or even the owner with deep pockets isn't going to help this team, because players are going to look at it like, well, I don't want, if I'm one of the better players in the NHL, I'm going to look at it like, why do I want to go to Arizona? And first of all, I'm playing a cold sport, and that's a hot city. Obviously, doesn't matter as much, but at the same time, then you're looking at it like, okay, I'm playing in an arena with 5,000 people, and nobody's even going to come to fill the 5,000 seats.
Right.
So why the hell do I want to come play in this city? At some point, it's not the owners, and the commissioner. They can try so hard to market a team in a city, and sometimes it just doesn't work, and you're not going to get players in to that city.
Yeah. I mean, you can look at Tampa Bay. I mean, they've sold out their arena, for a number of years. They won, 2 straight Stanley Cups, and they've got a franchise down there that people like to be part of. You go south 300 miles to Miami and go watch the Panthers play, and they're a fine hockey team. Nothing wrong with the Panthers except for one thing: it's out in the middle of the swamp. Okay, so I'm going to go out to the to the Everglades and watch hockey. What the hell? What
bothers me about the Panthers is they've really found a way to fleece us Canadians. Because if you notice, when you're in that area of Florida, you'll see a lot of Ontario and Quebec license plates. Because I actually have a few friends that own houses down in Florida. It's just, it's cheap place to buy a vacation home for people up here. And so, a lot of Ontarians and people from Quebec drive down there to their houses. So Florida got smart. Any other day of the week you want to go watch a game, tickets are maybe like $20-$40. When the Leafs come to town, your cheapest ticket starts at $110. And that's up at the nosebleeds. Then it only gets more expensive at the lower you want to go. And when Montreal comes to town, forget about it. It's like $200 a ticket. I know, because I've been to watch the Leafs play in that stadium before, and it's just They find a way to fleece us because they know that it's all a lot of Canadians in that area. So they figure they're like, oh, hey, when the Leafs come to town, we're going to fill the building. When Montreal comes to town, we're going to fill the building, right? Because it's going to be all Leaf and Canadians fans. So let's just jack the prices up.
We'll change subjects on this last final note, and that is the late great Jack Kent Cooke, who was one of the most colorful owners in all of sports history. There was a survey that came out in Southern California early in the 70s that said that there were 3.7 million transplanted Canadians who lived in Southern California. So Cook decides he's going to bring a hockey team to Los Angeles. He brings the Kings. The Kings play their first season. They don't average 3,000 people. To lead Cook to say, who knew that I moved a hockey team to Southern California for the 3.7 million people in Canada who didn't like hockey? So, it got better for the Kings. Not much, but no, it got better in that regard. But anyway, so moving on, boys. Let's talk a little bit about today Premier League games that are on the radar that you're looking at, or other games.
Oh, I mean, there's the you got the two. You got the Carabao Cup games here. Today at 3:00, you got Southampton hosting Newcastle. Every time I look at this line, it keeps creeping up for Southampton at plus 420. They just knocked out Manchester City. There's a chance, both of the road teams here, Newcastle and Manchester United tomorrow, if they go in and win 2-0, something like that, going back home, have a chance to really kind of lock up a spot in the final, you'd think. But these ties aren't always that straightforward. They're usually pretty tricky at some point for the teams. Both of the Newcastle and United are both favored. Newcastle's minus 136, Manchester United minus 143. Both the home teams are about 420, 425. I think Forest has to play. Dean Henderson can't play. They have a tricky lineup. They have all those players. I think Southampton, Newcastle today, I think it's actually going to be a pretty good game. I think this tie is going to be pretty tricky because Newcastle doesn't really outscore teams. I think there's a possibility Southampton can stay in the tie. Amedeus, I don't know what you think about this. This to me, this one is a little trickier. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, the first legs always are a little trickier because you never know. Like Newcastle could come with the mindset like, let's go win it right now, and then we can just coast at home in the second leg, or they might decide we can coast and come away with a draw here and then go smash them at home in the second leg. So it's always, that's why part of the big reason why I hate cup matches is because there's always the questionable motivation, especially in these 2-leg ones. But I don't know. I was looking at the under in this game just because, Newcastle's problems with scoring, especially on the road. And then obviously their solid defense. I highly doubt Southampton is going to be able to score that easily in this match. But I look at the under and I want to take it, but then I think about the one motivation that, Newcastle could come out and say, let's just win it today. And then we can coast to a draw at home in second leg. And there's also the fact that Newcastle destroyed Southampton on the road 4-1 in the first meeting of this season. So yeah, this is, I know obviously, Southampton's been playing better lately, but Newcastle was arguably I think they were worse at the beginning of the season than the way they're playing right now. Cause it seems like them and Man United, they were playing good at the beginning of the season. But it seems like, those are teams that are really starting to round into shape now.
To me, this has 1-0 Newcastle written all over it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, right? If Newcastle wins, it's gonna be a 1 or 2-0.
It's that's plus 510. Newcastle, 2-0 is 1-0. It's interesting in these games because, if Newcastle's up 1-0 in the 70th minute, what do? Do you go like I know what Manchester United's probably going to do in that thing. They're probably going to go for it, at some point. Like I don't know about Newcastle because their defensive record is so good. If you go home with a 1-0 lead, Southampton's not scoring. You're probably going to get a goal at home. Southampton's not scoring 2 goals against you at Newcastle, so they could shut it down at that point instead of maybe going for it. Whereas Manchester United sometimes with the defense here. If it's 1-0, then maybe they could go out and maybe try to, kill the tie off right there. So, I think this is going to be a tight game. Hey, any soccer plays today? Saw Jim trying to work with Boohoo, the capping dude, the other day. Funny stuff. Yeah, Bill, he's gonna figure it out at some point. He knows a lot about the basketball. He's really good. He just needs to he needs a little guidance. I gotta help him a little bit. Jim's trying to help him a little bit. Foxy, yeah, all right. We 1-0. Bill, this is, I think, Newcastle probably wins it here. Lazio plays AC Milan. I think we'll get to that. I want to talk a little bit about the Bundesliga next.
You know what, though? Another reason why I kind of like the under in this Newcastle is because, as you said, they could end up leading this game 1-0. And then maybe, after the 70th minute, they allow a goal and it's 1-1. Well, at that point, do you even risk going for it when at that, it's a 2-legger? So you can just, at that point, say, all right, we'll just hold out defensively, take the 1-1 draw, and go beat them at home in the second leg.
Yeah, I think there's some Foxy.
No, that's not how teams of champions. Okay, you should not.
You probably would.
You should not go into a game being like, I'll take a 0-0 draw. That's such a Mourinho attitude.
Yeah,
It's not Ted Lasso.
Foxy, the only problem with that is what happens if you go home? I mean, I know anything could happen, but if you get a red card in the first 20 minutes, or what if you get I think you got to try to get. I think you got to try to get a goal here somewhere. I mean, try to get a goal, but look. I mean, yeah, if it's 70th minute and it's 0-0, I mean, maybe you just try to shut it down. I mean, you definitely don't want to lose the game at Southampton because then you give them all the motivation to go, and then they just need a draw. So,
Foxy, how are you going to win titles with that attitude?
Well, Foxy, look, he's a Newcastle fan. He doesn't really know 2-legged ties. He's not used to it. He's not a fan of it. They're never in Europe. So, he doesn't really know how these 2-legged ties work here, and they're never in semifinals. So, but hey, look, you're the richest team in the world, Foxy. You got to get used to it now at this point. You're going to be, you might be in some of these, knockout stage ties at some point soon because you're owned by the biggest, the richest people in the world. So you got to get used to doing it, But
Sean, I actually saw something yesterday that you would love. It was the halftime of the Tottenham Fulham match. They were doing some match day memories. Yeah, and one of the match day memories they were doing was basically praising how Jose Mourinho revolutionized the game of football. How it's about how it's about you can't win a game unless you learn how to not lose games, and that should be your biggest focus: is going into a game trying not to lose it.
Well, that's curious.
I know Sean loves that style so much. So when I was watching it, I instantly thought of him. I was like, oh, he would love this match day memories on how Mourinho revolutionized the game.
I mean, the thing, when you go back to when you go back to his first year, he was ridiculous at Porto. When you go back to his first year, Chelsea allowed 15 goals in 2004, 2005. Remember, Arsenal had just won. They had just been the unbeaten team and blah blah blah, all this stuff.
The Invincibles.
Yeah,
right.
I saw that match day memory too.
decisions. But, I mean, when you look at some of these other teams, Arsenal in 1999, they finished second behind United, the treble team. They allowed 17 goals. Liverpool in 2018, 2019, they finished second, 22. And United allowed 22 goals in 2008 when they won the Champions League. And they had 25 clean sheets that year. But everyone talks about them revolutionizing the game. Manchester United had 24 clean sheets twice. In 95, they didn't even win the title. And in 2008, 2009, they went to the Champions League final. That team was ridiculous, and they lost to Messi's Barcelona. So, I understand it. We haven't spent $1 billion over the last decade. We haven't even but here we go. But you're going to be spending $1 billion very soon because you're the richest team in the world. You guys got to deal with the fact you're the richest team in the world now. You guys are a big club, man. You're a big club. You got to be used to these ties, man.
You're like Manchester City now. You should just come
in. You're like
win the league, win Champions League right away. No excuses.
Yeah, you're Manchester City. You guys are, or like Chelsea was in 2000. But look, I defense at the back. Well, I mean, look, the other thing too is I think everybody kind of forgets, how good that Chelsea team was, and but they made a couple semifinals. His Porto team won the Champions League, Europa League, and Champions League 2 years in a row. But look, I don't know. It's just not how when I coach, I'm attacked. So like, I don't, if I win the game, I'd rather win the game 4-3 than 1-0. So that's me. But because if I can score goals at any point, I could probably get them at home too. So.
You're like the Bayern Munich mentality. I don't need to play defense if I can score 6 goals.
Why is Manchester United and Liverpool desperate for takeovers? No, because they see how much money Chelsea just made for it, and they said, well, if Chelsea sold for, you missed the opening of the show apparently. If Chelsea sold for $3 million or $3 billion with that dump of a ground and all that stuff, then Manchester United, the biggest money-making machine in the history of the galaxy, should sell for 6. So, I mean, and plus, we have a history and all this other stuff. So we see all these other clubs that get bought with no history, Manchester City and Chelsea and all this stuff. And we say, well, we might as well sell them out too and make all our money. Bill, getting to these, let me pull these.
The Bundesliga. I know you're dying to talk some Bundesliga.
Right.
Well, I do like one game here today. Obviously, Bayern Munich.
I got a buddy that's on Cologne +2 and the money line all over Cologne today, and I don't know.
What does he know?
Here's what I for Bayern Munich. I think this is one of these games where you go over 3.5, over 4.5. I just think. Look. The other day was a tough game. It was a tough team they played.
They won that game.
They have to start ramping up here now. I just think the team is too good to do that. Let me see.
Like I said, they played like crap, but they still won the game. Like the goal should have counted, and they probably go on to win that game. They got screwed because, for the same reason, Sean, that they allowed your Bruno goal with the Rashford being offside but not touching the ball. They did the same thing for Bayern, but disallowed the goal for that reason, that the player was offside even though he didn't touch it or even make an attempt on the ball. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. There's no consistency at all.
Bill, is Nkunku playing today?
I haven't seen anything saying he wasn't. You guys?
Nkunku said to miss Bundesliga restart.
Look, that was the other day.
Face German champions Bayern Munich. Class comes too soon. I doubt it. It doesn't look like it, Bill. I would check. I mean, when you see what they're saying here, Galaxy is going to miss. I would probably say no, but maybe check right before. It doesn't really look like it. Let me look at this here and see predictions. I love this page, but like you can't. It's all over the place. You can't see. Like click
No
here.
organization.
Here we go.
Maybe they should make you editor, Sean.
Sean just needs to take over everything. He needs to take over Sports Mole, Man United, and the MLS scheduling, and then he'll be a happy camper.
Leipzig. Are they playing? That's who they're playing. They're playing Leipzig. Leipzig's 182 here. That's interesting.
Yeah, and they've been in great form too. Like that.
Bill, it looks like he's not. Vardiol is back in the lineup.
Vardiol played on Friday.
Werner's close.
Yeah.
Here it is. As it looks like Nkunku's probably a little bit too short here. Schalke's not very good. I don't know where they are in the table.
Aren't they in the last?
Yeah, they're last. They have 9 points. I actually like this minus 182 a little bit, probably -1. Yeah, he's got Foxy. I think he's going to be back like soon. I think this one's a little too close after the other game. Bayern Munich, I think today, I like them a little bit here at the, let's see what the Asian line is, -2. Let's see what -1.5. Bayern Munich -1.5. Leipzig money line pays +150 about. That's actually, I think it's a decent play. I think you could be a little, maybe you could even go -1 with Leipzig and make it, a bigger parlay here. Let's see. That's +200. It just, if they only win by 1, for the extra value, I would probably just do it at the money line, to be honest. Do you like any of these games today in this league, or?
No. After watching the weekend, I need them to play some games first. There was so much sloppy play everywhere in this league, and that's what happens when you take 2 months off. But now you ask them to take you have them take 2 months off, and then you come back and you pretty much play 3 matches in the first 7 days of coming back. Like the scheduling is absolutely ridiculous in this league. Like it's I need to see them play today. Maybe
you can't. I would think Nkunku probably comes back after the next round. Like once again, 3 games in 7 days. Like maybe he's a sub for the next round if he's close. But I would say I would maybe leave him out a little bit. You got a huge game here in Serie A. You got Lazio and your team here.
Yeah, I'm always very pessimistic.
Lazio is now, Lazio, they have a game in hand on the team. So if they win today, they go to 3rd in the table ahead of Inter Milan and 1 point back of AC Milan. So, let's see what Sportsmo has to say.
The thing is with AC Milan is like, they're the only team that can catch Napoli right now because they have a match in hand. So if they win today, they're only 9 points away. And, they still have a fixture against Napoli this year. So that's 1 loss. They just need to hope.
Well, 9 points can be made up.
Sorry?
9 points can be made up.
It depends
because
I'm sorry. You're right.
It's tough. It just like if AC Milan gets knocked out by Tottenham and Napoli goes to the semifinals or something like this, or
there's a chance.
There's a chance, I think, because then the further Napoli goes, hey, you get so much money for making a semifinal of the Champions League. There's a chance. I think a lot would have to happen
Yeah, no,
has
there's no question about that.
to start putting together. Like, you need to go on a run here. Like, you need to win 7, 8, 9 games in a row. Like, the only reason Manchester United is in the top 4 discussion right now is because they won 8 or 9. They won 8 games in a row, 9 games in a row, and then when you do that, and even if another team goes, wins 7 of 9. You picked up 6 points. I mean, you could pick up points on, Inter Milan. Look, I don't know. You want to talk about that yesterday?
I didn't even see that. Did they?
They lost 1-0.
Wait, who were they playing again?
Empoli.
Yeah.
At home. They lost to Empoli at home.
That's bad. Right after I raved about how great they've been playing lately too. Right. They go lay an egg like that. They go
embarrass you.
That's what I mean. They opened the restart with a win over Napoli. They've won every game since then, and then they go and just lay an egg at home.
Well, Skriniar killed them. He got a red first half. He got 2 yellows in the first half.
Oh, okay. So
they're playing the finals 50. Hey, what's up, G? How you doing, Diggs?
Skriniar hasn't even been starting lately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, it's these games are tough. I mean, that's the thing with. I think this is just my opinion for these, the Bundesliga, the Premier League, all these leagues. I think this year is a bit of an anomaly, obviously, because of the World Cup. When you have to play all these extra games in midweek, I mean, you see, Manchester United had to play those 3 games. They just don't have enough. Like, their squad's not good enough.
And then Casemiro gets suspended for probably one of the bigger matches.
Yeah, they just don't have it's just like Newcastle, Foxy. Same as in 2 years, Newcastle United and Manchester United will be flying because they'll have if Casemiro gets suspended, someone will be able to come in and not be like an anonymous headless chicken Scott McTominay. He didn't do anything in the match. When they have this,
I was surprised.
Anyway, they won't have Wout Weghorst playing games right now just to cover because Anthony Martial is a signal, walking signal. So that's why City, I think, is never out of the title race. That's why PSG. I know these races right now are tight, but PSG and Bayern Munich at some point are going to start to pull away because these other teams can't compete with them. When they're playing in multiple, all these German teams are going to have to play midweek in this league because they had so many weeks off, and then they're going to start having the European stuff. So now, it's going to be like 8 straight weeks of playing. You're playing Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday, or Tuesday, Saturday. You can't. At some point, you start to break down. So these other clubs have extra players. So to me, Bayern, PSG, those teams are going to start to pull away, even though it's been close this year because of all this other stuff. At some point, I think they're going to play. Bologna lost to an inferior team.
They tied 1-1, but that wasn't an impressive match. Cremonese, they gave up a penalty kick on a dumb play. Literally, Dominguez was going for the header and he had his fist beside his head and he ended up fisting the ball instead of his head. And I was like, what are you doing? So he gave up a penalty and then Bologna scored 5 minutes after that because Cremonese can't hold a lead if their life depended on it. And then that was it. There was no urgency from Bologna after that. They controlled the possession, but they just couldn't
no hand of God in this case.
And then they almost got another penalty for Cremonese with 5 minutes left. And then VAR looked at it and they took it away because it wasn't a penalty at all. The defender got there first. But I agree with you, Bill. These Serie A games, man, you can't trust these Italian teams. Why are you ever trusting Italian teams? It's just
I don't.
As an Italian, I don't trust Italian teams. My God,
tough to bet. I'll be honest. Those games are tough to bet.
They're all the same team. That's why they're tough to bet. It's literally it's like a league of the same team playing each other.
There's not a lot of separation. I mean, that's when you look at when you look at these other leagues, France and I don't know. By the way, did you see what PSG did yesterday?
7-0. You were close with
Mbappe,
that 8-0 final score. Yeah, somebody asked me actually, but I had a buddy who was like,
They almost missed
Mbappe score
point.
5 goals today. I was like, we made a joke that it was going to be 8-0. And it was 7.
And one of them was like a back here. I mean, yeah, it's a the problem with those games once again is, I mean, that line was crazy, but you just never know. Like PSG could just say 3-0, whatever.
Yeah, they could have scored and sat on it, or they could just keep going.
I mean, I think this year more so than in other years. I mean, you see this. It was 4-0 at halftime. Mbappe had a hat trick at halftime, and then what do you do? Well, you know what? I want to play myself into shape. We're trying to win a Champions League. I'm going to stay out there. And you see Mbappe's out there scoring, his 5th goal in the 79th minute. I mean, they're trying to – and Mbappe's been out. So, they're trying to get back into it. So you see Mbappe –
they need it.
Ekitike, Neymar, no more your guy Sarabia is gone. So,
good. He's so bad. Every time they threw him in there, like they can't score a goal with him in there. I don't know what it is.
Nuno Mendes came out early, Bernat, they switched out the what they did was they switched out the defensive players and the midfield. Ramos came out in the 67th minute. So, because you're not, so they switched these guys out, so which was interesting.
Has Messi and Mbappe played together on the pitch at the same time since the
World Cup? No.
Yeah, Mbappe's been out. So, look,
I don't know. It's interesting how Messi was playing up until yesterday, and then as soon as Mbappe comes back, you get Neymar and Ekitike in the lineup.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna
something's up. Something's up.
I don't know. I'm back in PSG. I think they win I think they win the Champions League. I just think Messi, he's going to do it and he's going to finish.
He's having a Champions year. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
World
the
Cup,
Champions League,
French League.
Yeah, look, I think their tie with Bayern is a toss-up. Right now Bayern is minus 130 to advance in that, which to me is crazy because I think it's an actual toss-up, that tie. I don't know why. I don't think Bayern's any much better than them.
No.
Yeah, look, it's weird. That's the problem with this World Cup in the middle. I mean, it's just weird because all this stuff, and I think Messi had to be. Messi plays in Paris. You beat.
Yeah.
So, like, I know some of the other players were doing that stuff. I think Messi was you hear about the rift between the South Americans and Messi, the French, and all this stuff. But, some of the, I just remember hearing, like, I forget, Teddy Sheringham didn't even talk to, like, players on the Manchester United team when they won the Champions League. It's like sometimes it fuels you because you're like, you want to out, Messi. Oh, I'm getting the limelight. All right, I'll score 5 goals. So it could fuel you, but it could also like. I don't. To me, I mean, I don't know if Amedeus, Foxy, whatever you want to chime in here. Like, I mean, I don't think PSG should be plus money to advance against anybody. To be honest, at this point, I guess maybe Manchester City, but I mean.
If anything, it should be like a minus 110 for each.
Yeah, they're the second choice to go to win the tournament. I mean, and you're plus my these odds are weird to me because if you see, the futures, they're both plus 700, but then to advance, Bayern Munich is minus 130. So then why are they both plus 700? Like Bayern Munich should be plus 650 then, and
right.
should be plus 750. But I'm going to take a shot on PSG, I think, and Real Madrid.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with you in the sense where like Messi could be thinking like, I'm having a Champions year. Like he's got at the top of the world right now, and he's probably thinking of his own treble. I'm going to win the World Cup, the domestic league, and Europe with the Champions League, and that's probably all. And then obviously the Ballon d'Or
Yeah, they played when they battered the Saudi All-Stars the other day.
On Thursday.
Yeah.
I was going to say, did anybody watch that? I don't even know what happened.
No.
I had no interest in PSG versus the Riyadh All-Stars or whatever it was. I watched AC Milan get destroyed in Riyadh.
Oh, PSG
I was done
won
with the Saudi Arabia games.
It was 5-4. So
that's not bad.
5-4.
But you know, Sean and Amadeus, you guys bring up a point, right? How many times have we seen in other leagues, whether it's NBA or or hockey or baseball, where there's been a team where a lot of guys haven't spoken to each other on the team, but they put together and they won. And I had one guy tell me one time with the Yankees when they were having success that sometimes there was 25 separate cabs when the game was over. That nobody they didn't stay around the clubhouse often.
You mean
so
like LeBron and Russell?
Yeah, even though there's a Messi and Mbappe on the same team, I don't know. I mean, maybe for a couple of months they coexist to both get what they want. Maybe.
Yeah. I think I totally agree with that, and I'm with Sean in the sense where like PSG has the team to make a run. Like they, and it's you played together for the entire season before the World Cup,
right?
Okay. Mbappe, you don't need to be all like mad that you lost to Messi in the World Cup and all that. Like you just got to look at it like, hey, you're 36 years old and I won a World Cup 4 years before you did. Okay. And guess what? That was your last World Cup. I'm going to go on and win more than you. Just, like bite your tongue and go win a Champions League and the French title. And if you want to leave in the summertime, that's fine. But just put your head down and play right now, because you're going to be the one that comes out on top in the end. You're one of the best players on the planet.
Right.
Yep.
So there you go, boys and girls. All right. Any final thoughts, boys, before we get out of here today?
Go Southampton.
Southampton, Nottingham. That's your Carabao Cup final.
I saw Real Madrid play the last few games. Benji gets a lot of credit, well deserved, but I was impressed with Junior. Yeah, Vinicius is unbelievable.
He's having a hell of a season.
Haven't been an outright winner for a Champions League. I don't see value. I think Holland will be the difference for City. They'll finish the season strong and have a ridiculous squad. The only thing I say, Foxy, is if he does get injured, which he does at points get injured.
Right.
If he's injured for a key tie, and Pep is, you know how Pep is in those knockout stage games. Like they've had the best team for like 4 or 5 years now, and they haven't won anything. At some point they will. Well, maybe it's this year, but at plus 180, there's no value in it. So, and once they get through, they're going to be minus money in the quarterfinals. So it's not even worth it.
I'm telling you, if you like the value, you take Napoli at the plus 1400 right now. They're going to skirt by. I forget the team they're playing in the first round, but they're going to skirt by this round of 16. And I'm telling you, they're having one of those years where they're going to go on a massive run. They're going to win the Italian league. They're going to win the Champions League. And then they're going to sell everybody in the summertime because their players are worth way more than what the team is right now.
There you go. The sum of the parts. Okay. All right, boys and girls. Until tomorrow, we have some fun with some soccer today, and enjoy. Thanks for all the conversation, guys. And we're going to come back tomorrow and see if we can have a nice midweek situation. There's a lot of games played on the midweek, so we're going to check that out too. So until tomorrow, from Amedeus, for Sean, I'm Jim. Take care, everybody.